What's up, guys? It's Rich. Some exciting news with today's video. If you're seeing this, patch 2 has officially dropped. At the time of this video, there's going to be a 30-minute to 1 hour downtime when releasing this, but I want to go over all the patch notes with you today. I'm going to be live on stream right now. If you're seeing this video, you're likely going to be able to catch me live as well, reacting to it live. But we're going to be going over some of the patch notes here early on that we got just a few hours before the update went live. So we're going to be going over this. There's a lot of changes. Honest to God, I'm going to try and go through each and every single one line with you guys. So this might be a little bit of a juicy video. If you guys do enjoy this, make sure you drop that like, drop that sub. More Graves and Warfare content coming on this channel. You guys know I love the game. You guys know I will always support the game. So make sure you guys stay tuned here or over my live streams, wherever you guys want to watch. We got some awesome, juicy stuff. If you guys are excited, make sure you like us. Let me know down in the comments. There's some juicy stuff in here, man. I briefly went over it before recording the video, but there is so much stuff in here. I'm going to go over it and then talk with you guys as far as what I think it means and then things like that for the future. So we're going to start with what's added to the game, what's new to the game. The biggest thing, number one, is there's 9 new landing zones for more convenient traveling to specific areas. If you've seen the picture, which will be on stream now, what this is essentially there's 9 new LZs to try and combat LZ camping and stuff like that, but they have also adjusted the terrain to accommodate these LZs, so it's not going to be the same, just in that spot. They're not kind of just thrown there. They're kind of maybe adjusted to make play it feel a little bit smoother and stuff like that when you're landing there, but this should help combat LZ camping, especially when you're in those PvP fights and you feel like people are just absolutely just crowding all over the LZs. Being able to select the new one now is going to be able to impact the gameplay and the fights a little bit more. A missing notification when trying to invite a friend to a squad when they're already in the squad, essentially is just like you weren't getting notified if you were already in a squad that one of your other friends is trying to invite you to a squad. So they added that. A notification that there's no ammo magazine in the pockets when trying to reload. So that's nice to see that little notification box being added. Confirmation dialogue for various squad and friend actions. Missing sound effects on the character creation screen. So just some little quality of life stuff on there. Notification for players to claim their edition rewards. This is a really big one. I've seen a lot of people in my chat or my comments say, hey, I didn't get my rewards or something like that, or they didn't know where to claim it. This is a nice, really important change to be added in, especially for those that buy the upgraded editions, where they need to go to claim those rewards and stuff from upgrading and supporting with the different editions of the game. Optimizations to reduce rubber banding. This is going to be probably just overall a nice change for the way the game feels when you're flying through helicopters. Separate sensitivity settings for aiming down sights. Big change, because for those players that know that they use different ADS like me, I use lower sensitivity when I'm aiming. This is a really big change, so I'm glad to see that. Sounds of vendor progression actions, so just some nice quality of sounds. The missing radiation in the ground zero area is now deadly when you enter that area, which means they're definitely working on this area in terms of ground zero, which we know if you watch the Q&A video that they said this is going to be like the high tier end game zone where there's high tier loot, higher tier AI, where it's going to be the most PvP. This is going to be the ground zero zone. It's nice to see that they're starting to work towards that. The pickup and destination zone description to the helicopter, which is big because I know a lot of people have been having issues, obviously, with the helicopter issues about going to an LZ and then not being able to see where that heli is already going. Even though a player might be already going to that same POI you're going to, being able to hop on and see where that heli is going beforehand, because a lot of players don't even communicate and tell you where that heli was going. So this is nice to see that you can hop on this heli and then maybe save yourself some time instead of waiting for the helicopters. Various VRAM optimizations, so the game performance is overall better. So this is definitely a big one because obviously performance. We can hammer this down forever. The more players you get in here with better performance, the better overall experience it's going to be for more players. Vendor confirmation when leaving vendor screen with items in a basket using back escape. So if you've got stuff you haven't purchased or checked out with at a vendor and you press escape, before you would just kind of leave those stuff in a basket, but now it kind of tells you, maybe, hey, do you want to leave? Are you sure you want to not purchase this? Because maybe sometimes you forget, or maybe you're like me and you just have short-term memory loss. Your preferred game mode is now selected when launching the game. Before, I believe it was just selected to Warfare, which is the PvE VP mode. So if you played Joint Operations PvE and you've played that before, it'll automatically put you back into that. Adjusted lighting on medium graphics quality settings, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously, we don't know until we get into the game. Several light sources in YBL, some tasks to unique quest items, so they've adjusted some of those. The blur effect while suppressed for scopes and kilometers is going to be interesting to see, because especially in a PvP fight, a lot of you guys know that when you're getting shot at or by AI, the scope and the suppression effects are just surreal and really, really hard to overcome. So let's see how this works, this new adjustments to it. The flight path from Kilo 3 to Juliet 4, I'm assuming there may be some issues with that one. Changed. Leaning is now disabled during provision animation. So before, when you were eating or drinking something, you could do that little left-right lean, what a lot of players were doing. That's disabled now. I'm not sure why. Maybe to just like give you kind of a penalty if you decide to eat in combat, so you can't just lean and avoid bullets. That's all I can imagine. I'm not sure. Load magazine now selects ammunition from the equipment, not from the locker. I guess beforehand it was right-click loading from the locker, but I mean, me personally, I was dragging ammo in anyway. Players can now loot their friendly NPCs. Players now cannot loot their friendly NPCs in the base camp to prevent exploiting. So that's a big one because we know exploiting is a big issue with this game in terms of being like a looter shooter. So I'm glad to see that they're adjusting that. Players will be matched to the same server after disconnection if they reconnect within a certain period of time. Big. A lot of people know of crashes or server disconnects, something like that, especially when you're like really far from your base or something like that and you're trying to get something done. The ability to reconnect now to that same server is going to be really, really big. Rename the Mark 18 to DDM4, okay, to correspond with weapon specifications. So the Mark 18 is no longer, it's now the DDM4. And this is a list of all the bug fixes. There's a lot. I'm going to kind of just run through this. And if there's something that stands out, I'll talk about it. Fixed a levitating fence near Midnight Sapphire, a missing collision in Fort Nerith headquarters, a missing icon for unblocked friend, a network error after waiting in queue to join a server. This is a big one. I had this one happen a lot to me, especially on stream. You've seen that I've been trying to join friends or something like that. They have PvP in a server, and I get a network error. So that's a big one that they fixed that. A railing that players can vault over, a rare issue where the character progression would reset to rank 1, a rare situation where the camera clips through the helicopter while getting on it, a road near the Juliet 3 landing zone, a situation where players were unable to wear both a vest and a plate carrier. That was kind of bugged because they had that ability to double stack armor, which was crazy. A spot in Tiger Bay where AI could get stuck. A spot where players were able to ADS and shoot through a solid fence. That's crazy. I don't even know where that was at. A spot where the screen would go completely dark in an area near Juliet 3 LZ. Never had that happen to me. A sudden change in ambient sound near a golf field. Interesting. I'm assuming that's Midnight Sapphire golf field. AFK timer to kick idle players. Big. Really big change. This is huge because for a lot of players that don't know, for those that PvP, a lot of times you just find players stuck in their base and those servers kind of die out because there's just players taking up the server capacity because they're just sitting at home base doing nothing. Having an AFK timer is huge, making servers feel a lot more lively, a lot more juice because players are actually engaging in the content. They're not just sitting at home base taking up server capacity from those that are actually looking to play. So this is really big and a huge change for me. I mean, probably my favorite change in all of this, obviously outside of the 9 LZs, is really big, but adding an AFK timer is freaking huge. AI navigation over a sandpit and sawmill. AI stuck and shooting from walls in YBL 1. YBL 1 getting love finally, as we know YBL was a nightmare sometimes to go in there to complete quests because a lot of the AI were stuck in walls. Ammo icons remain grayed out after canceling the trade. An area in a started towns where AI could bounce around. An exploit preventing the blur suppression effect. An incorrect collision on wooden bridge near Midnight Sapphire. Where did I go? An issue where the players in coma couldn't be shot and finished off. So apparently, if you're in a coma, you can now be shot and killed. Before, if you shot a player while they were in coma, they would just stay there. They wouldn't die. They would just sit in coma and they could talk to you. But now if you want to kill a player to be able to loot them faster, you can shoot them in the head and finish them off. An issue where players had no input upon loading to the server. I've had that happen to me multiple times. An issue where a dead body would disappear but remain lootable. I don't think I've seen that one happen, but also I haven't looked for dead bodies that have been invisible. An issue where modding a weapon on a dead body would render it unusable until you restart the game. Had that happen multiple times. That's a big change. An issue where player bodies didn't show any loot for a short while. Also have had to happen to me. That's a big change. An issue where players receive squad invites in chat even after not allowed in squad invites in settings. Well, I didn't have that issue. An issue where players weren't able to loot their body after reconnection. That's been a big issue for a while, ever since the launch of the game. So nice to see that's getting addressed. An issue where quest interactions were active after a quest had failed. So quest interactions and stuff like that, that's really big in terms of the fact that you essentially couldn't interact with these quests and stuff like that. I know a lot of people have mentioned that, like, hey, how do I fix it, something like that. I'm glad that they've addressed it because I actually had no idea how you could fix that issue. So next up is an issue where sometimes it would disappear while moving them in the inventory items, which a lot of people know. If you moved items, sometimes it would just disappear into your bag or a case that you might have in your inventory. So it's nice to see that. An issue where selecting a faction on a character creation screen. I don't think I had that happen to me. Being unable to invite a player at the squad after kicking them. Okay, that's unfortunate. I haven't had that happen to me either, I don't think. Being unable to join the server with your squad if the leader is already on a server. Facts. This is huge. Again, for those that play with friends, this is a annoying issue to have. So social issues being addressed in this patch, really big, and I'm big on that because more social means more activity in the game. Destroyed heart not visible on the health panel. Disappearing sleeves when looking around while in ADS. Failed to load Scala DLL on supported PCs failed to load Scala.dll on supported PCs or when a folder name in the game is installed contain a non-ACI character. Please don't. I'm not sure what that means. That's beyond me. Flickering sunlight coming through a window in Fort Nerith. Glass on some doors and windows which cause them to be bulletproof. Finally, glass is getting addressed. I know a lot of players that would be mentioning to me that glass was a big issue in this game because sometimes the glass would just be absolutely bulletproof. It's out of nowhere. So that's getting addressed. Graphical artifacts caused by shadows on windows, big. Helicopter being stuck between Delta and Echo, also a big change. I know for our Crimson Shield players, that's a big one. Helicopter failing to arrive after dying far from LZ, blocking the LZ. Improved AI navigation through the double door. Improved the character shadows while moving into water. That's interesting. Improved visibility of the currency in the vendor trading window. That's a nice one. It's going to be easier for players to find their money and stuff like that in the vendor trading. Improved visibility of the currency. Oh, I already said that one. Improved lighting in the mall. Big. As we know, the mall was a nightmare sometimes to see into areas because they were so dark and AIs could be easily hiding there. So improving lighting is big. Invite to squad button not available for newly added friends, excuse me. Issues where players are able to clip through a wall and see behind under specific circumstances. Item duplication axed. You're done. If you've been doing any item duplication, that stuff is done, and I'm so glad because this is something that needed to get addressed and fixed before they even wipe the game or anything like that. So a big step in the right direction with this one. Item duplication exploit being hacks is going to impact PvP a little bit more because, you know, obviously money right now is kind of inflated in this economy and in this wipe, but next wipe and the wipes after that, it's going to be a lot more rewarding to PvP and stuff like that. So in terms of like making more reward to loot, in terms of getting it and receiving it. Items used when healing other players are now properly marked as in use. Cool. Jagged shadows on a scope when aiming down sights. That should be interesting to make stuff maybe more visible. Light leaks in a motel building. Long text overflowing interaction. UI box if an item has a long name. Loot placement in Fa Lang airfield, so they readjust the loot placement there. Minor light leaks in a hangar in Fort Nereith. Missing blur effects around the scope under certain circumstances. Missing bullets and weapon action animations. Missing name in a notification. Mortar and grenade explosions not visible under certain circumstances. Multiple AI spawning in the same location. Oh, that's a big one, actually. Let me not overlook that. A lot of people had that, like, where all of a sudden where you wiped an AI and then you would wait for them to respawn. All of a sudden, they just mob spawned. That's a big one. So the mob spawning is kind of taken care of. Parts of FOB were not covered in the safe zone. I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm glad they adjusted that. Placing money to a stack inside a backpack will place the wallet into a different cell. Players being able to get stuck at a pool in LRI FOB. So Lemang. Players being heard on voice chat even after disabling it. That's crazy. Players being unable to move while picking up items on opening doors. Players are now locked in a position when kicking doors. Interesting. Players being sometimes unable to jump when near an obstacle. Players unable to see their body because it fell through the ground floor. Another change that I've seen a lot of people complain about. I'm glad to see that that's addressed. Reduce hitching just before the helicopter lands. Ooh, that's going to help a lot, especially when you're in a, landing in a hot zone or something like that. The performance of a helicopter landing sometimes a little bit hitchy, so it's going to be a lot better. Resetting to default now only affects when the current section of the settings. That's a good change. Several spots all around the map where a player could get stuck. That's also big, huge, because a lot of players could get stuck and we just have to respawn. Sinking of bodies into the ground in Midnight Sapphire. Skipping a coma will no longer result in you killed yourself message. You can actually finally see who killed you. Big. This obviously could help in terms of gunfights and giving callouts to players, because before you had no info on who killed you. Some glass items being too bright in dark environments, so that's interesting because as we know, glass was impacting the way, especially in Tiger Bay, the mall. That's one of the main areas I noticed. It was really hard to see out of the glass through the scope because it was just really bright. So we'll see if that's adjusted. So squad chat disappearing after ending an expedition. Squad leader's inability to promote another member while there was an invitation pending. Squad leader's inability to send or receive chat messages after joining a server. Stone walls in Midnight Sapphire which look too thin. Stuttering when jumping near an object. The issue where players were unable to loot their body in PvE mode. Again, that hammers back to the bodies disappearing. The quick unequipped function, quick control plus click, not working items inside containers. Yeah, that was a little annoying, so I'm glad that that's been adjusted. The rubber butt pad can no longer be attached directly to the buffer tube, as a lot of people saw that looked really funny when they did that. The visibility of the quest item in the Deal of the Century task, so a quest item adjustment. The weapon snapping into position after vaulting, so it does now, I'm assuming, or maybe it did before. I don't know. I don't recall. Tracer rounds effect not being visible is big because before a lot of people would run tracer rounds and there was no way to know we were running tracer rounds because the tracer rounds weren't doing anything. So now the tracer rounds are actually happening. This is big for gunfights, especially in a forest environment such as Lemang. Being able to tell where your teammate is shooting is going to be huge because before it was kind of, he's over there by the tree. Okay, well, now that you have tracer bullets shooting in that direction, this is really big, and this might be overlooked by a lot of people, but tracer rounds being effective is really, really big. Unblocking a friend no longer requires restarting the client. Undesired motion when switching stances. Unnatural-looking vegetation in the landscape near the path to the waterfall. Various crashes. Various floating, sinking, or clipping objects in the world. So these are just like world changes. Various places where vegetation clips with fences or other objects. Various task text adjustments for better clarity. Wrong materials on some trees, so they just had to adjust the wood like Minecraft. Improved polish, removed tweak. Improve the player collisions with objects while holding the knife. Interesting. Various world locations. Polish. I'm going to like to see that. POI is getting adjusted. A flying coffee pot near Foxtrot 3 LZ. Okay. A redundant pilot voice over line when departing from LZ. Dysfunctional Type 51 slides from vendor stock. Those were removed. Replaced an incorrect house in the villa near FOB. Tweaked AK animations to be more accurate to the real life. Now, this is interesting because I didn't notice that they said they adjusted AKs. And if you play the game, you know that AKs weren't really that effective against AI. But I also think that had something to do with the server performance. So we'll obviously be testing this live. So make sure you guys come by and let's test. We'll be testing AKs out. I know a lot of players are excited for AKs to be useful and beneficial in this game. Hand movements while running, they adjusted that. The character rotation while vaulting is tweaked, and then the various weapons and character animations was tweaked. So that was a lot of changes that they mentioned. I mean, that was woof. Big list we just went through there. I mean, this is a lot of really good stuff, man. This is a lot of good stuff. This is by far the biggest patch. I mean, this thing is huge, huge, huge. So I'm going to be excited to try this out. Definitely some really juicy stuff in here. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think is probably your top biggest change from this or adjustment. Because this is really a juicy patch. So I'm so excited to try this. If you're watching this video, there's a likely chance I'll be live over on Twitch streaming the game right now and testing this stuff out. But if you guys did enjoy it, make sure you drop that like, drop that sub. I'm super excited for this patch. I'm so excited for more Gray Zone Warfare content. So this is an awesome change. I mean, just an amazing change, a very much needed one. So I'm super excited. Hopefully you guys are too. I'll catch you guys later. Let's talk about some more Gray Zone Warfare later. Peace.